Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we talk about technology in building supply chain resilience in an uncertain world. And anyone who reads the media, anyone who's working today can certainly attest to that, right? Things are uncertain. We've got developments in Ukraine. We've got cross-border tensions. We've got trade wars. We've got rising fuel prices. So it is indeed a challenging world, or uncertain world. It's great today to be joined this morning by Mr. Frederick Tan, Head of Sales at TNT Surveillance, Mr. Rahul Nambia, Co-founder and CEO of Botsync, and Mr. Derek Loy, General Manager, International Business Digital Technology at Ant Group. So before we kick off, I'm going to ask each of these gentlemen to tell us a bit about themselves, their companies, and what is it they do. Starting with you, Frederick.
Thank you so much, Raman. So for TNTS has been working with leading brands in the transport and logistics sector to build their supply chain resilience over the past 10 years. And as our vision, suggests, we are all about providing safer journeys for commercial vehicles. As of today, we have been doing that for more than 15,000 commercial vehicles in Singapore and regionally. Thank you very much. Back over to you, Raman.
Thanks, Frederick. Excellent. 15,000 vehicles. That's pretty impressive. Thank you. Hey, Rahul, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Raymond. Pleasure to be here today. My name is Rahul, one of the founders and CEO of Botsync. As a quick background, we are a robotics company, a 4-year-old company actually, headquartered in Singapore. Essentially what we do is we help companies automate intralogistics inside the facilities, be it a factory or warehouse. Essentially what that means is we move heavy materials around. So we build the physical products, the robots, the entire software structure controls the robotic implementations to really help companies automate a lot of their material movement processes from payloads from 300 all the way to 2 tons. And the long-term vision really is to help companies automate the intralogistics in days instead of months or years, as it is with rigid automation solutions. All right, over to you, Dr.
Certainly. Thanks, Rahul. Derek, a bit about yourself, please.
Hey, thanks. Hi, my name is Derek Loy. I'm the General Manager of the International Business of Digital Technology of Ant Group. So anywhere outside China is the scope under myself, and I'm very focused on productizing as well as delivering all the underlying capabilities and technologies that power the various Ant Group services, such as our fintech services, to enterprise customers, government customers around the world. Now, if I were to summarize it, it's essentially our service mission is to enable digital trust so as to connect business. In this regard, we have a few brand names of portfolio, one of them being N-Chain. N-Chain is essentially a portfolio of blockchain-centric services that we have. Some of them you're probably familiar, like traceability as a service, especially for food chain, vaccine distribution. Another popular application would be around supply chain automation. So one of the largest car makers in the world is using our capabilities to track and automate, right, the shipment, the delivery, as well as manufacturing end-to-end process of their supply chain, as well as their delivery logistic chain. We also have a cross-border global financial payment platform, right, that is so crucial to digital trade. That's so crucial to helping the economy as well as all of us, right, to recover from the pandemic and the new and to adapt to the new normal, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the N-Chain portfolio. I also have another portfolio for eKYC, called Zolos. I also have another portfolio for machine learning, federated machine learning, AI, so on and so forth, and so on. But you can see that at the end of the day, it is all about enabling digital trust, thereby connecting businesses end to end.
Okay, thanks, Derek. I mean, quite fascinating listening to the spaces that the three of you fill. And of course, with yourself, Derek, quite a wide portfolio as well. Yeah? So, and like recent events have highlighted the importance and the frailties of global logistics and supply chains, and not just global, but also domestic, right? and it has prompted organizations to rethink how they look at their supply chain strategies. Because I think we can all agree, labor, there's a crunch, it's costly, it's getting costlier. You can optimize your operations, but after a point, you reach a point of diminishing returns. So technology is that enabler that can lift us up and give us that higher productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, etc. So maybe, Frederick, starting with you, TNT Surveillance has been working with leading brands. You said 15,000 commercial vehicles in Singapore and the region. What are some of the challenges your customers commonly face?
Yes, thank you. That's a very good question, Dr. Raymond. So one of the things that we have really learned about from working with all the leading brands in the transport and logistics sector is that we often believe that the most resilient and the agile supply chains, right, are designed to more than just simply resist and recover. So from working with some of the brands, I can share that some of the common challenge is really about looking for opportunities, right, to improve workforce management, right, and that's one of the things that one of our key customer, one of the Singapore's leading transport players, SBS Transit, face, right, due to the labor-intensive nature of many business activities, right, and combined with, of course, a lot of significant variety, right, in long working hours, skill shortages, right, in key roles, recruitment, managing, retaining staff, particularly challenging, right. So that's one of the challenges that we've seen from them. In the logistics sector, we have our customers like PSA Singapore, right, where the port workers have to cope with 8 to 12 hours work shift. And many of the port workers, right, they manage these prime movers that they have. And these are very physically demanding work and require mental focus. And many a times during the daytime is energy sapping condition, right? So, so it's very common for the truck drivers to complete thousands of trips every day, right, in the Singapore port, just to really make sure that we have a world-class container services available. And hence, in that kind of situation, keeping active communication with all the thousands of prime mover drivers in the port becomes critical. So workforce management is really one of the challenges that we most commonly hear from our customers.
So in a medium to high cost working environment, where there's also a shortage of labor, be it skilled or semi-skilled,
yes,
that certainly makes sense. But what about in a developing country, where you pay your driver $200 a month or $300 a month? Would you say that these technologies, the telematics that you talk about, that TNTS does, is there applications for that in developing countries?
Definitely, because I think that due to the technological advancement, what it really means for a lot of transport and logistic companies is that developing the capabilities of managing the people digitally becomes imperative, right? So it's no longer a nice to have capability, but then very, very important critical capability for them to develop to be able to manage the people digitally. And because this really sends a very strong and powerful message to the customers as well, that their goods, right, are safely, being transported from one point to another very, very safely. So what we have also understand from a lot of logistic companies that we work with is that a lot of customers trust them due to the fact that they are able to provide this transparency in be able to let them track, right, exactly where their goods is from point A to B, right, during the journey, as well as to also understand, right, the drivers are constantly, right, in a safe driving environment, because we have the AI solution, right, to constantly help them, right, to focus on demonstrating positive driving behavior. That's why our tagline, a safer journey every single day. Yeah.
So it's not just about doing the right thing for your employees and also implementing new technologies, but also using that technology maybe to even brand your company,
That's
to
right.
be a differentiator as well in the market. We are an
Yes.
ABC company and we've got these technologies and it provides you a safer journey. So it's good publicity as well. Yeah.
Yes. If I may add, I think that consistent with the technological advancement, it also means that there have been a significant hidden expectation, right, from customers of logistic companies where they are having a lot more higher expectation of how, it's no longer just about transporting their products, from point A to point B. They want to know that, what kind of technology are you using, right, to ensure that these things are being transported safely, right, and efficiently from point A to point B. So that's the kind of things that we are able to help these logistic companies to evaluate, to give this assurance to their customers.
Thanks, Frederick. I'm sure we can talk more about that, and I will come back to you. Rahul, robotics and automation. So similar to what Frederick has experienced in his space, your centers around intralogistics within the four walls, if I can say that. So it is more dominantly implemented in certain sectors, right? Like electronics and automotive manufacturing. But how do you see this developing in the supply chain space? What Botsync does?
Absolutely, great question again. So maybe I can just give an overview of how robotics has been implemented in this original electronics automotive manufacturing. So everyone is quite aware that PLC systems, robotic arms used on the production lines. So that was something which is very early implemented in these electronics automotive sectors. What has happened since then is with growth in e-commerce, a lot more commerce going online, fulfillment operations became something which became a very good target for automation. So Kiva Robotics, very early days, became one of the pioneers who implemented something called goods to person automation, basically moving the carts to people to pick before it goes out to customer. They were acquired by Amazon a good while ago, incorporating into the Amazon fulfillment centers. And what that helped create is a new wave of automation solutions globally. We have companies like Geek Plus, Gray Orange, who have taken up that void left by Kiva Robotics being acquired to introduce goods to person automation. What is happening now, which I suppose we are part of, is a new wave of automation again, which is more into collaborative robotics. So Universal Robots out of Denmark came up with a solution to make arms more collaborative. I think since then, the process of moving item itself from guided technology, which is what is originally available in the manufacturing space, started becoming a lot more intelligent. And that is what we are building today as well, autonomous mobile solutions. So becoming more collaborative, becoming more intelligent, and as a result, becoming easier to implement. I think that's a critical piece, has opened up a lot more use cases within logistics which can be implemented. So we work with companies like Bolloré, for instance, where there are multiple different use cases within these sectors which we can automate, starting from simple put away processes when the trucks unload the pallets, from there moving into the racks, and then similarly for outbound processes, moving from the racks back to the staging area, etc., before it goes off to a truck. So in terms of robotics, what has happened over the past decade is that it's first become more intelligent. Secondly, it's become a lot more cost effective. And nowadays, a lot more effort is being put into making it a lot more usable. And what that has resulted is these use cases, which could not be implemented before, have now become easy to target use cases. So I think moving forward, please go ahead. Yeah, so I think I was just summarizing here, saying that so this trend of becoming more collaborative, becoming more usable, has still opened up a lot more use cases within the supply chain field, which is not possible before.
Okay, so I'm working in a distribution center or a warehouse. I've got a GTP solution, a goods to person solution. The rack comes to me. I don't go to the rack to pick and pack. So that's goods to person. What is the next stage, or how does a collaborative robot that's intelligent, how does that look like?
Got it. Yeah, I think goods to person, like you very rightly pointed out, it's basically moving the racks to the person. So now if I go into a distribution center with traditional racking, for instance, we have these 15-meter, 20-meter racks. So maybe let me just paint a picture of what it is like today. So today, what happens when the truck comes in, offloads a pallet to the staging lane, you have these forklifts. After they do the initial screening, the forklifts pick it up, move it to the racks, and then from the racks, it comes back out during the outbound processing. So that is what the process looks like in any traditional racking facility, a distribution center, even could be within a manufacturing site. So in those kind of use cases, a goods to person system doesn't really apply because you can't move the entire rack itself because it's a huge structure to be handled. And these are pallet items, can range from 300 all the way to 1.5 tons in terms of payload. So collaborative robotics or autonomous mobile robots, which we are working on, the idea is that that process of using manual forklifts can be replaced with intelligent machines, which can work collaboratively with people in that entire facility. So people can be working in that same facility doing different kinds of operations. And the idea is that these collaborative systems can work in the same environment, moving the pallets from the staging lane to the rack and picking up from the rack, bringing it back for outbound processing. So that is what the future is that we are looking to build towards. In any traditional racking facility, basically replace the forklifts and give access to a lot more intelligent collaborative system, which can be deployed in that space.
Thanks, Rahul. So I'll come back to you as well. I've got Derek here as well. And Derek, we've heard from Rahul where he's talking about intralogistics. We've got Frederick talking about telematics. Maybe you can give us that view at 25 or 30,000 feet, right? What are some of the latest trends around Internet of Things and Web3 and edge computing?
Absolutely. So definitely, with the pandemic, unfortunately still ongoing, it has migrated a lot of the transactions and the business trade online into the digital format, right? And this essentially means that in order to really enable all parties, right, to be able to recover and not be left behind, the key question now is how do you enable digital trade for all, right? Not just large enterprise, but also SMEs. Now, in this regard, we have focused on a lot of things, innovation in various, what they call footprints along the whole end-to-end supply chain. So first and foremost, we have established a global shipping business network called GSBN in partnership with Costco, Harper Lloyd, PSA, where we have digitized and automate the entire bill of lading process. So now EBL, right, is something which I'm also part of a international trade community, DS1 of ICC, International Commerce International Commerce Council, in order to standardize this EBL, right? So that will promote digital trade. Secondly, it's also about how do we then enable cross-border payment in a safe and secure manner. So this is where, not only having the various wallets come together, in a recognized format with recognized payment gateways, but it's also about enabling trust, right, for cross-border payment. And this is where you have technologies such as electronic know your customer, EKYC, so that indeed they are dealing with trading with the right person. You also have capabilities such as know your bank, EKYB, where now it's also about making sure that you are transacting safely with the right bank and not being scammed. So all these are, again, part and parcel of the digital trust capabilities from a cross-border payment that will supplement the digital trade and the EBL that we spoke about. Now, last but not least, when it comes to digital trade, it's still about shipment logistics, right? Shipment of actual goods and services from point A to point B. And this is where Anne has also made various innovations with regards to supply chain, tracking, warehousing, asset management using AI-infused cameras, and devices with cloud-based, API and SDKs that allows you to connect them to the edge and then eventually to the cloud, so that you are able to truly, right, standardize and be able to provide end-to-end tracking and shipment automation. So these are the three broad areas that I would say has really been important milestones in order for us to then overcome the pandemic and allow us to then, hopefully restart, the growth again.
Fantastic, Derek. Just listening to you, I think it can be a whole session by itself here, but we've got, but let me ask you this, and this is a question to all three of you gentlemen on the panel, whether it is intelligent robots, whether it's telematics, whether we are talking about electronic bills of lading. For example, in the air freight industry, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, took years to implement it, and I think it extended from 3 years to 5 years to 7 years. And even then, the adoption isn't as widespread or isn't as widespread as it could or should be. So in all these technologies, telematics, intelligent robots, everything that you talked about, Derek, why is industry so slow to adopt this? Who wants to start first?
Maybe I can go first.
Okay.
All right. So I think maybe I can touch upon a specific part of this, the industry, right? So we work with a lot of MNCs today. We work with automotive companies. We work with electronics manufacturers. At the same time, personally, I've been quite interested to reach out to SMEs and understand what it takes to get this implemented on a larger scale. Maybe it's sharing a few statistics here. If I look at the US market, only less than 10% of SMEs are automated, but they contribute about 98% of companies in the US are SMEs, but less than 10% are actually automated. So kind of touching upon, so I've been kind of spending some time understanding why this is the case. So looking at the manufacturing or even the logistics sector for that matter, within SMEs, it's a lot of high mix, low volume components, which means that especially from the point of automation, it cannot be designed for just one use case because there are multiple different things being handled, multiple different things being manufactured. So automation, which is rigid, targeted one particular use case, doesn't really fly in that space of the segment. Secondly, robotics, the purchase price is just one part of the overall cost. There's a lot going into implementations, adoption, to make sure it's successfully implemented. So in a simple way, the product purchase can be about 25%, 30% of the price, and the rest of it is really considering implementation. And this brings to the final step, technical skill sets. SMEs can't really afford to have very qualified roboticists or automation experts in that sector to make sure implementation is successful, or for them to troubleshoot and make sure systems are running. So these have been kind of the three overview items which seem to be preventing automation from being implemented a lot more wide scale into that SME sector. Sorry, maybe one other point really comes down to cost. The fourth thing, all this kind of captures into cost at the end of the day. It really needs to make sense from an ROI perspective. So I think these are the four sectors which robotics as an industry need to be addressing a lot more to really bring down and make it easier to penetrate into these sectors more so than it is today. So yeah, so that's 2 cents from my side.
And I guess also there's the interoperability challenge as well, right? It's not just about implementing the robots, but how does that interoperate or interface with your WMS and maybe as part of your larger enterprise resource planning solution to give you that whole visibility as well.
May I add something here then?
Yes.
A quick one. So I think since you brought up interoperability, again, something very close to my heart. So robots, there are different kinds of robotic systems. So interoperability between robots and WMS is one part of it, but interoperability between different robotic systems is soon going to be one of the bottlenecks, which really prevents a lot more widespread adoption and implementation. So yeah, just wanted to share this one point from my side.
Interesting, yeah, which is something that we're talking about implementing robotics, but now we have to think even further about the interoperability between different types of robots in your warehouse as well. Thanks. What about yourself, Frederick?
Yes, yeah.
Great tool. Why hasn't the industry adopted it as fast as it can?
Well, what we have really discovered, especially over the last 12 months, is that ever since we established an inside sales team to really look literally into focusing, being laser focused on this SMB market, right? Is that, we visit them, at their warehouse, we visit them at their workplace, and we start to learn, a lot of things is really about being able to put ourselves in our shoe, so that's really something that we have learned from it. Keeping our fingers on the pulse, and we learn along the way of being able to contextualize it right into something that they can relate to. And more often than not, of course, right, for SMEs, it's all about dollars and cents. So we learn along the way, and if I may just really just very, very briefly about when we talk to them, we have to really be very, very crystal clear, being able to impress upon them that immediately when you adopt these technologies, right, these are the kind of benefits. And for us, we learn along the way that just by merely telling them how good our AI technology is, how it can actually captures, the eye movement of 1.3 seconds is not good enough. We got to be able to tell them things like, example, look, when you install AI solution, it's going to help you to track your engine idling, and it's going to give you significant, massive fuel savings, which is a big deal right now, right? So petrol is just, went through $3 per liter. So we do track engine idling, and that leads to, we even take out the calculator and calculate for them. They get to save easily $800 to $1,000 per vehicle. And when we multiply that by 50 to 100 vehicles, it's a very significant savings. Our solution is supported by insurance companies, right? So when insurance companies come on board, they are very happy, right, to actually give significant savings in the insurance premium, as opposed to if they do not install a solution. And with our live tracking of the fleets, now they have increased in the operational efficiency, right? We are able to show them data that once they install the system, right, it's going to lead to a significant drop in terms of what we call the event counts. Means things like example, the drivers using a handphone, the drivers smoking in the cabin, the drivers, switching lanes, right, without proper signaling. All these things where our system is able to help them to reduce the event counts by 85%. We're able to help them to reduce operational downtime, because now we're going to provide them immediate access to data analytics where they can see every single driver, what are the kind of driving behavior, that this driver is showing every single day. So we contextualize this, we give them numbers, and we find that then the adoption rate becomes a lot quicker. So that's something that we have learned, over the last 12 months, being on the ground, working with these SMEs.
Excellent. And then maybe in the local context, and this applies to you, Rahul, and maybe yourself as well, Derek. What about government funding? Do you always get the question about how much, I don't know, productivity grant can I get if I implement your solution? Is this something that's still top of mind to many SMBs in Singapore?
Well, maybe I can answer this question, Dr. Raman. So yes, our solution, it's IMDA approved. We are approved vendor, so hence the background, right? SME Go Digital. At the same time, right, we do work harder, right? We will do work harder because we need to find a way, right, to be able to get across what we truly want to tell them, that it goes beyond just this support for the government, because that's really something that we're all very clear. This government support is just really for the initial push of it, right? Ultimately, we want to get the wholesale buy-in from them, and they're able to do their own ROI. So they know that, well, it means that there's going to be some out-of-pocket costs from them, and the out-of-pocket costs, the ROI is going to be way, way above that out-of-pocket cost that they're investing in. So I think that this government grants has really, really helped a lot. We are very grateful, right, to Enterprise Singapore and MDA for the support for our solutions. At the same time, we are very clear that this only serve as, perhaps the initial nudging of all these SMEs to onboard the solution, right? And we have got to work harder to be able to tell them the ROI that is in the long run. Yeah.
Thanks,
If I may, chip in here. So, to me, right, having what you call government grants, having the right initiatives, between from a G2G level, is a big boost towards ensuring a common standards and therefore interoperability. By the end of the day, G2G grants can only do so much because they are more from a policy angle, and this is of no disrespect to any government. It's more the fact that end of the day, in order to really lend such capabilities, especially to the SMEs, it's also about how do you actually make it easy to use, easy to understand, and obviously easy to ROI, right? And I think this is where, from a functional, global bodies point of view, there are various, I spoke about earlier about the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, the Digital Standards Institute. So they are trying to standardize digital trade, electronic bill of lading. Then we also have, efforts at standardizing data exchange. So in Singapore, for example, there have been a few platforms similar to MyInfo, which is more for G2C, but we have equivalent data exchange platforms that have been set up to serve as highway for data exchange between enterprises and businesses in order to then allow that level of trust to then trade digitally, right? So that is another key barrier to overcome, or to another key enabler in order to truly have interoperability, as well as to promote the usage. Now, last but not least, to me, it's all about education, right? I know it sounds a bit cliche, it sounds a bit obvious, but the reality is, because increasingly we are all working remotely, there is actually a disconnect, right, to a lot of these industry developments. And this is where the need to constantly provide the right channels of awareness, right, and tech training, especially digital training, right, to the SMEs, so that they know how to differentiate, right, and choose the right solution that gives them the bang for buck. So these are the three areas that personally myself and Ant, we have been involved in order to truly, right, lower the barriers of digital trade and to promote interoperability.
Thanks, Derek.
Maybe
Excellent.
I can just touch one point. I think both Frederick and Derek have covered a lot of the essentials. I feel like one thing which Singapore has done, apart from subsidizing, making it easier to experiment, is the upscaling portion of the workforce. I feel the grants have helped upskill the staff, and that is something which really helps with adoption. So generally, a fear is that automation technology being implemented leads to a shift in jobs or a displacement of jobs. Policy changes to help that upskilling of staff, so they don't feel threatened or don't feel like they'll be out of a job with implementation technology, also goes a long way in making sure technology can be successfully implemented. So that's just one point I think I just wanted to share from my side.
Thanks, Rahul. So, I think it's been quite an interesting conversation. It would be great if we were talking face to face, but I guess we reach a wider audience as well, doing this digitally, yeah? And I guess it also fits the team as well. So in the interest of time, starting with you, Rahul, then followed by Derek, and then finally Frederick. Can you give us one use case of your technology in play and one takeaway point? Listeners who've been here for the last half an hour, what is one takeaway that you want to share with them? So one use case and one takeaway, starting with you, Rahul.
All right, thanks, Dr. Raymond. In terms of use case, I can touch upon the automotive manufacturing use case we work with. So typically, the most common use case is moving items between production lines. So you move work in progress items, raw materials, finished goods. So raw materials from the warehousing to the production line, the WIP materials between production lines, and then the final assembled goods from production to processing for either shipping out or moving back to storage. So this is a very common use case across a lot of the automotive customers we work with. We move things like car chassis, body parts, etc. It ranges from 300, the smallest, we've done all the way to 2 tons. So these have been the most common use cases. A key takeaway, I think I've been telling this internally a lot of late. An automation implementation can be done anywhere, anytime, without any planning. But a successful automation implementation takes a lot of steps before even deciding to go for automation. So I think very important steps before actually putting this into place. Understanding the processes is a very key thing into making any automation successful. Understanding what goes on in your facility, what are the processes, what are the associated headcount, and then mapping out what needs to be changed, what needs to be adapted, and then planning for automation. And I think the final takeaway is that automation by itself, I think Dr. Raymond, you've mentioned this before, is not the best value add you can have. It has to be integrated with a few different systems. Could be your ERP, WMS, your MES systems. Only when all of this is integrated effectively do you get the best ROI from each particular system. And which is why a lot of planning before, in terms of process mapping, is quite important to make sure that you make the best out of the investment you put into. So yes, that is only one takeaway from our last 2 years of operations.
Excellent, thanks. So preparation, planning, and integration. Thanks, Rahul. What about yourself, Derek?
Definitely I would like to touch upon the use case that I've mentioned earlier, and that's for the Global Shipping Business Network, GSBN. It is a consortium comprising of Costco, Hapaloid, PSA, where they have come together to establish and automate a digital electronic bill of lading in order to really cut down the paperwork, reduce error, possible what they call human error, as well as to increase the efficiency of digital trade, which is so crucial, right, to the recovery from the pandemic. Now, to me, one of the lessons or observations, that I've seen from the implementation of this project is that at the end of the day, there needs to be a coming together of different global standards, right? To understand and see how we can actually establish common ground in order to then enable this benefit to truly reach every corner of the world, right? And I think it is part and parcel of the evolution of any new technology or digital capability. There will be different standards, but it's coming together and finding that common ground. That marks the beauty of human beings in the sense that we do understand, right, that collaboration and teamwork does bring about benefits. And in this case, there's a greater good here because we are all trying to see how we can not leave anyone behind and be inclusive, especially to the SMEs. So that is an observation, and that's an area that I'm investing a lot of energy. So I'm part of the SME Digital Forum. I'm contributing towards the Digital Standards Institute in the hope that at least we can roll this out to more SMEs, thereby really benefiting and helping the economies around the world.
Excellent, thanks, Derek. So collaboration has been merged into the better normal. Right? What about yourself, Frederick?
What I really love to end off is really to share one or even, if time permits, two examples, right, of how really the leading players in the transport and the logistics sectors are actively applying data and advanced analytic methods, right, such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, right, to a lot of workforce management part. And so one of the examples of one of our customers is SBS Transit, right? So for them, it's really about being able to manage the expectations of the public commuters, right? And specifically, they are always looking at bus reliability, right? Which is why they invested in this new monitoring system many years ago, provided by TNTS, right? That really helps to use data analytics, right, to pinpoint problem areas and undertake intervention efforts. And we are also, really very happy and grateful to note in their annual reports 2020 that this project has actually enabled SBS Transits, right, to achieve an improvement of up to 20% in the fleet's performance. And over at the logistics side, we have also noted one of our customers, PSA Singapore, right? TNTS Surveillance have installed a customized solution that's really focusing on helping them, right, to capture irregular driving patterns, right, that will help them to detect and warn truck drivers, right, their prime movers of and their fleet managers, right, of signs of fatigue, so that steps can be taken, right, before mishap happen. And of course, we all know that avoiding accidents drastically, right, reduce the cost incurred and improve the overall efficiency of the company. And so it's really important, right, for SMEs or MNCs to know, right? And of course, we also have this research, right, by this leading consultancy firm, McKinsey, that suggests that an integrated digital workforce management transformation, right, when applying with a range of different tools and techniques, right, can unlock 10 to 20% of additional value for transport and logistic companies. And I just want to end off by saying that, speed, flexibility, transparency are no longer nice to have, but truly essential attributes for the transport and logistics sectors. And TNTS solution, right, is really designed to help, every transport and logistic companies to build supply chain resilience, right, by enabling them to manage people digitally, very, very important, and to also automate and streamline processes, ultimately, right, to really forecast, anticipate, and respond quickly to whatever supply chain risks or opportunities the future will brings. Yeah, so
technology is not just a nice to have, it's a must have.
Exactly.
So, all right, gentlemen, Rahul, Derek, Frederick, it's been a pleasure. You guys, you chaps are excellent representatives of your organization and also about the topic in general. So thank you for taking the time today. And I look forward to interacting with you more at IoT Asia. Have a good day. Bye-bye.